this upcoming week of, like I said, the 24th to the 30th, we have a good chunk of things happening, and it's kind of beautiful. Hell yeah, I tend to attract those of you who have Mercury in the 8th house. It's awesome. So on Monday, the sun is going to be conjunct Venus, and we're going to be seeing that. On Tuesday, the 25th, nothing's going down. On Wednesday, the 26th, Venus will trine Jupiter and then trine Saturn as well. So Venus is joining in that grand water trine that's been happening. It happened with Mercury for a second, and then the sun, especially during that new moon we had last week. On the 27th is the transit that I've been so excited to talk about, which is Saturn stations direct. Yay! Thank God. I'm so freaking ready for that. So Saturn stations direct on the 27th. On the 28th, nothing's going down. But then on the 29th, Mercury stations direct also. Yay! Thank God. And then later in the evening on the 29th, Venus is going to be opposing Uranus. And then on Sunday the 30th, Venus enters Sagittarius. So that's kind of what we have to look at this week. There's still a lot going down this upcoming week as well. So just, being aware of that there's a lot of movement happening still. But we're going to dive into it. Also, another thing I want to add is tomorrow on the 24th, I don't have it in my personal calendar, but we're feeling it right now as well, is Mars is squaring the nodes. So we're going to start the conversation with that, and I'm going to be sharing my screen so you guys can see what's going on. We're going to go here, jump in here. Let's double check. This is looking good and delicious. Amazing. That looks good on that end. And jump in here on TikTok. Making sure that this is looking good there, and then I want to show this and put this here. Hopefully that looks okay. No, let me know, guys. Okay, cool. So we are looking at the chart, guys. We are looking at it. So I know on your screen it might be a little squashied. That is just the nature of things. I'll move it down a little bit if that helps. Oop. Cool. I'm gonna put that here. Guys, you guys are seeing my Virgo rising real time right now. As I'm adjusting the screen and everything. There we go. Okay. Welcome to everybody who is joining. Sorry, that was really loud. I felt like I yelled at you. It even hurt my eardrums. Okay. Welcome, Allie. So this is tomorrow that we're looking at. We are looking at the 24th. And what I want to talk about immediately is Mars is squaring the nodes. So for those of you who are new to astrology, welcome. That is what I'm here to talk about to you all. We're going to be diving into understanding these transits, and hopefully, like my deepest desire with talking with you all about this is that you walk away with a deeper understanding of astrology, or understanding the transits. Welcome, guys. Welcome. As you guys like the live and share it and make my content out to people who may enjoy it as well. So on the 24th, we have Mars squaring the nodes. Now the nodes are not they aren't planets, by the way. They are just mathematical equations that show us where the transits are the eclipses are happening within this time and space. So right now we have the North Node hanging out over here in Pisces, and the best way to look at the North Node versus the South Node, the North Node is like a lowercase n. That's how I've always remembered it. And then the South Node is just this upside down horseshoe on the other side over here. So, and the South Node is in Virgo. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Amanda. Welcome. So Taking a pause. Yeah, I figured it was you. I don't think Tyler hangs out very often here. So what's really interesting about what's going on here, let me describe the nodes a little bit. So the north and south node, again, they are these mathematical equations that show us where the eclipse is. He's Rocket Leaguing. Tell him that's lame. Rocket League sucks. I'm just kidding. Please don't tell him that. I personally do not like Rocket League. Anyways. So, Rocket League. Oh yeah, I forgot you're a Rocket League fan too. But can you wave dash? Ooh. So the north node being in Pisces is where collectively our soul is like calling us. And then the south node is where we're really comfortable. And so right now with the south node hanging out in Virgo, there's a lot of mental stimuli where it's like being very comfortable in the mental control space, in the like, I have to know, and life is easier if I know things, if I can calculate things, if I can just plan things perfectly. It's almost this sort of idea of like, if I plan everything perfectly, everything's going to be okay, right? And the north node in Pisces is calling for us to really let go and let God, where it's like there are some things that are just going to be out of your control. And the north node's like, can you surrender into that deeper level of trust? So that kind of sets the foundation so you guys can start understanding this square. It's technically what we call a T-square, but since the nodes are always in opposition with each other, I'm not going to focus too much on the T-square aspect. Thank you for sharing the live, guys. Thank you for liking the live as well. So this square energy is 90 degrees, and now we have basically Mars as the crux of this, and so it's making a square to the north node and making a square to the south node. So Mars is kind of stirring up this I heard, like, you know that meme where it's like, and then I heard that annoying voice or whatever it is they said, where it's like, and then suddenly there's that's kind of where like Mars is coming in and is drawing our attention to. It's a very interesting energy because Mars can be persuaded one way or another with this square energy, where it's like, are we going to lean into utilizing this Mars energy for the north node, or are we going to utilize the energy for the south node? So there may be a back and forth that is happening here on Monday. I'm going to open this up at the bottom here so you can see what date I'm looking at. So again, this is that. Okay. Yeah, it's that meme. I knew it. Yeah, that's kind of like Mars is like, hey. So to understand Mars is our will, our drive to get things done. It is masculine energy. And Mars in Sagittarius is going. So depending on where Mars is transiting in your chart, so wherever Sagittarius is in your chart, there's sort of this drive forward. But this square to the nodes is kind of like, are you moving towards where you want to go? Because Mars could go running the direction of the south node, right? Fueling that energy of essentially, God, it's such interesting energy. I'm going to be so honest. Because it's just tension from both sides, where it's like you can feel both sides weighing out in your mind, where it's like there's a part of you that is saying, it's easier if I allow myself to overthink. It's easier if I just stay in the mental space. And then there's another part of you, especially the Sagittarius energy. Thanks for the resub. Let's fucking go. Yippee. But then there's also the energy of the north node that's saying like, well, it can be really easy if I lean into trusting God. And like, so it's interesting. I did a reading about this morning, and it's kind of coming up where it's this energy of balance. and using Mars. What's interesting is the balance point for this, and I know I'm focused on this pretty deeply, is actually Gemini energy. So there's sort of this balance that's coming in of noticing like, where's your mind going? Where are you letting your thoughts run to? Where are you focused on one area too much? It's about finding balance of both of these things. It sucks because Mars, it's kind of, okay, I totally got the picture. So the North and South node, it's kind of like when your parents are fighting and then you're like in the middle and you're like, I can't pick a side. Mars is kind of like the kid that's like, I don't know what to do. So it's kind of this energy of like, how do you want to navigate it? How are you going to move forward with, yeah, relatable, real. I think our mom's in the chat, by the way. Hi, Mom. Mars is traumatized here. Yeah, no, literally. That's so funny. You're hilarious. When my whole family's in the chat, that's great. The family that matters. That's what's real. Thank you guys for liking the live. She shared it. Oh, let's go. Okay. So we're having this tension, and you can probably feel it coming up now, where it's like you could lean into the like over analytical energy of the South Node in Virgo and find comfort in like trying to plan things, or you could lean into the comfortability of letting go and letting God. And I get this feeling of like that North Node energy is a little bit more uncomfortable, but there is still this square aspect that's like, are you gonna do the shit? Are you gonna, like, no matter what, both are uncomfortable. Squares are uncomfortable aspects. The way that I've described it, and if this is isn't your first time here, you've heard me say this a bunch, but for those of you who it is your first time, squares, I think of them as like the tectonic plates, right? Where they, as they shift and move, they create tension. And no matter what, the tension has to go somewhere, whether it's a tsunami, whether it's a volcanic eruption, whether it's an earthquake, it's something happens from the rubbing and the pressure. And so it's like, both suck. It's one of my favorite things. Since my mom's here, she brought this up. I remember when I was like a teenager, where it's like things are hard. Like, it's hard to be overweight and it's hard to lose weight. Which do you want to do? And that's kind of what this Mars is kind of geared up to do. So it's like one way or another. I think I know what I'm giving into. Going on a surprise trip, unknown destiny. Oh, that sounds awesome. And that's very Sagittarius energy. So I love hearing that. Sagittarius is about travel and exploration, higher learning and studies. So this is happening on Monday. And oh, for your birthday, hell yeah. Oh, are you a Sag or late Scorpio? Well, no, we're in Sag season now. So you're a Sag, huh? So yay. We got a lot of Sagittariuses here. Let's go. So it's such interesting energy because when we look at the kind of valve point, like the pressure release for this, it's Gemini energy. So talk about things like the fact that Night just commented in the chat, like, this is what I'm doing. So even talking about it, or just like having open conversation of like, I'm kind of like at a standstill. I don't know which direction to go. I don't know things. There's weird pressure in my life of these things. So having conversations, because Gemini really like needs to talk about things. That's how they process. So therapy could be helpful. Okay, so that's happening on Monday. Yeah, that's happening on Monday. Another thing happening on Monday is Mercury is conjunct Venus, and it's actually really interesting because the two of them are kind of doing this like little pass where Venus is crossing over Mercury and Mercury's walking backwards. It's retrograde, so it's almost like Mercury's gone through a lot with this retrograde. Has been retrograde since November 9th. For those of you who are in my Mercury retrograde masterclass, you know what's going down, and if you're interested in that, it's linked to my bio. You guys can purchase the recording if that's something that interests you, and learning more about retrogrades in general. Ooh, interesting, Catherine. What degree is your Gemini moon at? If you know that info, because that'd be super interesting to like think about. And again, thank you guys so much for liking the live and sharing. That means so much. And for my friends hanging out on Twitch, hi guys. I see you. Don't worry. I'm seeing you. I see you guys hanging out here. Do I? Who's hanging out? Hi guys. I had to like look over. So this conjunction is something that I was thinking about with witnessing this Mercury retrograde, because Mercury basically was passing over so many planets, went over Mars, went over the sun, Lilith, and now passing over Venus. And it's like Mercury's already scouted ahead and then gone backwards. Hi, Noodle. And so Mercury's kind of sharing this knowledge with Venus of like, hey, this is where I was at. Like, careful, caution. But when we have Mercury conjunct Venus, ooh, wow, so that's almost like opposing your moon in Gemini. So definitely lean into your emotions here, Catherine. Like your subconscious and unconscious reactive habit patterns, like how you operate when nobody's looking, when you're on your own. Little tidbit for you there. So Mercury conjunct Venus is beautiful. It is really nice. And with Mercury being retrograde, again, it's very introspective. It is all of the reflecting, redefining, re-evaluating our communication. And so when we take that and we apply it with a Venus conjunction, which means they're at the same degree as you guys see on my screen, Mercury is at 22 degrees and Venus is also at 22 degrees. So thank you for sharing the live. So Venus is our planet of love. It's our planet of how we get our needs met, loving, sharing love, sensory pleasure, indulgence. And with Venus being in Scorpio, it is this really, really deep longing to merge, to, as I say, crawl into another person's skin. Like you want to be so close that almost the body is like, it gets in the way. That's a very scorpionic energy. And with Mercury coming here, it's like really allowing us to process those deeper energies of, you know, is this merging what I want? Is this actually paving the way for what I desire? And it's a really beautiful reflective energy of like, how can I who am I in this? It's kind of like reassessing that energy of like, who am I in the expression of my love? Am I in alignment with my thoughts with this? So we're doing a lot of reflection with Mercury retrograding over Venus, and you know, it's going to bring in potentially some deeper conversations with your own internal processing system, because again, with Mercury being retrograde in these deep parts of yourself. And I want to invite you guys to look at where Scorpio is within your own natal chart, specifically the later degrees of Scorpio. So that's 20 to 30, 29 degrees of Scorpio, because that's kind of what's been really highlighted the last couple weeks. And so we're kind of getting the opportunity to really dig into this area. And now our heart is really present in this area, and our needs are like deeper feminine needs are present at this time here. So we're really looking closer at, you know, do you like what you like? I think I did a message about this on my TikTok account a little bit ago, where I was talking about like reevaluating your pleasure and reclaiming your pleasure and reclaiming like these deeper sensual parts of yourself, and understanding that again, and this getting a little deeper in programming, like especially if you're a female, lots of programming around performance, lots of programming around how you're supposed to be in intimacy. And so it's kind of like breaking down those walls, especially because Mercury went over Lilith too. So there's a lot of deconstructing of sexual beliefs happening. So Shakira, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. So that's happening on Monday. Wow. I be talking. You guys know I love doing what I'm doing here. So Venus is kind of a big player this week. Actually, I'm looking at it. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, Shakira. Like, I'm been going on a deep dive of seeing that for myself, especially for those of you if you were raised religiously. Lots of programming that is being shaken up. So no direct transits happening on Tuesday the 25th, but as we jump ahead to the 26th, Venus is at 25 degrees conjunct Lilith. So we're gonna bring a little bit of a conversational piece into this too. And ooh, this is fucking hot, actually. Yeah, my friend Dawson over here said, and too many people with good intentions push women into adopting harmful self-image issues. Yeah, it works both ways, man. There's a big war right now happening upon men and women and pitting each other against each other. And it's easier if we're fighting each other than fighting the big guys, if you catch my drift. We're not going to dive much deeper into that, but I share and want to share. Oh, thanks for the follow, Tater Tot. I want to dive a little bit deeper into that stuff because that's something that's like near and dear to me over on my Instagram. So if you're not following me there. Okay, so they're listening, no, literally. They are. They're always fucking listening, guys. They're all fucking listening. Okay, so this is awesome. So you'll see on my screen, I drew this triangle, and this was something that was coming into the conversation last week with the new moon. If you guys remember, on Wednesday we had this grand water trine happening with the moon, and now we're bringing Venus and Lilith deeper into the conversation. And yeah, so first I'm going to talk about the fact that Lilith and Venus are conjunct. They're both at 25 degrees. And if you're unfamiliar with Lilith, Lilith is an asteroid. She represents the darker feminine. If Venus is the light feminine, I would say Lilith is the dark feminine. Both are needed. Dark feminine does not mean bad. Light feminine doesn't mean good. It's just a different expression, right? So Lilith, if we go into understanding her story, if we look at the story of the Garden of Eden, Lilith actually came first, and she was, she didn't want to be subservient to Adam. She was like, actually, no. No. And so they were like, oh, we gotta, let's get us an Eve who will be agreeable, which, there are some aspects where it's like, yeah, like, being agreeable is okay too, of like, yeah, actually, I would like Adam to take the lead, please. Cool. There's different layers to it. And so I don't think one should be above each other. I think that's like the ultimate realization with, if we're breaking down the Garden of Eden, like equal. We both have different roles, and they are both needed. Masculine and feminine. We need both. Lilith talks about our repressed desire, talks about repressed femininity, and with her being in Scorpio, it's really, really bringing up like the sexual shame big time, especially with. It's really interesting. It's almost like I'm seeing both sides of the feminine within you. Again, it doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, if you don't identify with anything, like, it doesn't matter. We're talking about energies here. It seems like the way this is coming up in my mind's eye is like, it's almost like the repressed feminine and the expressed feminine are coming together right now, and they're like having a conversation. It's like I'm genuinely seeing in my mind's eye, and for those of you who are new here and hanging out for the first time, I get a lot of visuals in my mind, and it helps me explain these things. And it feels as though you're having a sort of, and collectively we're having this sort of come to Jesus sort of moment of like, neither, like, my desires aren't bad, and like both have a seat at the table, that this sort of reflecting on the repressed feminine, because Lilith is retrograde right now. We've been really reflecting on like, where have I been betraying myself? Where have I been like stuffing myself into a box around intimacy, around shame, around, because Scorpio is basically all of these undercurrents that we don't really want to talk about. It's the hush hush, it's the hidden realm. And so it's like this sort of like realizing that maybe there's a lot more happening underneath the surface. So, oh yeah, Shakira, I definitely knew I knew you were joking. Good jokes. I love having you here. And for those of you just popping in, liking and sharing the live helps my content get to people who may benefit from it. I have to say the things because if I don't ask, nothing's gonna happen. And I feel like, guys, that relates to this like Venus and Lilith sort of energy. Like, what if you could ask for what you wanted? Oh my god, what if? What if? That's something I literally challenged myself with today, like on my videos that I posted here on TikTok, was I asked people to subscribe to my newsletter, which I always do talk about, but like genuinely being like, subscribe, and also subscribe to my YouTube. I really want to get to 1,000 followers on YouTube. I think that'd be a fun goal to reach by the end of like this year. Like, yeah. Oh my gosh, yay, Amanda. I love it. I love being people's like little background because I do the same thing. Like, I literally will have some of my favorite people playing in the background, and it just means so much that I'm one of those for y'all. Welcome. Hi, guys. So, yeah. So there's a lot of stuff coming up with repression. Oh my god. Just drinking. Yeah, no, seriously, Shakira. Shakira said over here, revolutionary ideas. Sometimes I feel embarrassed asking for what I want. Like, I expose myself. You're doing your makeup right now. I bet it looks super cute. Yeah, because really, here's a mind-blowing thing. People can't read our minds. I know we're like, but I'm so like, the image is so clear in my mind. Like, I know that, oh, I'm drawing lines. Like, I know that I'm thinking about the thing. So obviously people must know that I'm wanting said thing. No, people can't read our minds. And it seems like, especially with Mercury retrograde here in Scorpio, it's that realization of like, oh, like there's some deeper things that need to be spoken about. It's not right now with that Mercury retrograde, but it's like the processing of like, okay, there's been a lot of hidden things happening or in my subconscious. Now Venus and Lilith hanging out here are making a grand water trine to Jupiter and Saturn. So again, the energy I spoke about last week, and if you weren't joining me last week, that's totally fine. We're going to explain it, was with the new moon last week, we had a lot of supportive energy. Now this energy is coming in with these feminine aspects. So again, Venus and Lilith, again, it's like I'm seeing yin and yang of the feminine energy, where it's like them both realizing like both are needed. It's important for you to have boundaries, right? And that's kind of the energy of Lilith. But her retrograding is realizing, oh, maybe I boundaried too hard and didn't let anybody in. So now nobody wants to be close to me, right? And Venus is direct in Scorpio and is saying, hey, sis, like, I know you really want deep love, and I know you want to be seen and nurtured in these really deep, deep parts of yourself. But like, if you don't break down some of these walls, nobody's gonna get through. And it's nobody's job to break those walls down for you, right? That is your job. That is yours. We can't be putting that on. Good night, Mama. I love you. Bye. Yeah, it's late where you're at. Thanks for hanging out. So, yeah, super powerful energy with the feminine, and now grand trine. So we're first gonna, so thanks for the follow, Canton. I'm gonna move that little alert to like be on my face so we can see it when people follow me. When you guys follow me, or if you gift me things, it plays fun sounds, and I'm so stoked that I did that. That was really, really funny of me. Okay. Anyways, so grand trines, cool. amazing. Trines are super supportive energies. So Jupiter's retrograde and Saturn is retrograde also. So that's a very interesting flavor to bring into the conversation. I've talked a lot about Saturn being retrograde and Jupiter being retrograde in my newsletter. So if you guys are not signed up, go sign up. It's just linked in my bio. You literally click it, chuck in your email, boom, you're locked in. Because I take everything that I talk about here and I write it, because I know some of us all have different learning styles and some of us prefer having just like a quick little touch base, like email, boom, I can look, see, okay, this is happening today. It's something you can always go back to throughout the week. So that's why I do it, because I get it. I'm also like that. I look at my newsletter. I'm like, oh yeah, what's going on? So Jupiter retrograde is having us re-look at where we've been pouring our energy, where we've been like just it's kind of been like, the way I was talking about it is it's like a sponge like soaking in so much water. It's like you have to wring out the sponge to get out the like dirty water and like get some fresh water. And it's kind of like this retrograde of Jupiter is having us go inwards and realize, okay, I gotta really pour into my own cup. And Saturn retrograde is very, very supportive of this energy, because Saturn is retrograding in Pisces, and Pisces is the last sign. It's really, and Saturn's gonna go direct this week. Let's fucking go. Yeah, absolutely. Canton, by the way, before you jump out, is I re-upload this to YouTube. So if you can't catch it all, jump over to my YouTube, subscribe. I'm going to have it up later this evening so you can listen. Yeah, because I get it. I throw it everywhere. So Saturn retrograde in Pisces is really, really having us realize emotional discernment, emotional boundaries, having a container, because emotions without a container, they just spill everywhere, right? Think about, if you wanted to pour your friend a cup of water and you didn't have a cup, what are you gonna do, right? You're just gonna pour it into, like, there always has to be a vessel. Bye, Shakira. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. Bye. So Saturn is that container. I've been thinking of it as like the Holy Grail, like a grand chalice. And it's like really helping us discern our spiritual discipline, our spiritual vessel mentioned, our like emotional fortitude. And so it's like really reflecting on like, where are my boundaries emotionally? Where have I been overcompensating? Where is there still like patches needed to like make sure? And I'm seeing like paper mache, where it's like you're dipping the paper, you're wringing out, because it's making me think, if you've never done paper mache, I remember it. Like, I literally remember my art teacher in like 6th grade. I loved her. She was amazing. Still is. She's still alive. She would show us the process. You dip the paper in, and then she'd take both her fingers and squeegee off the excess like mixture of water and glue. And it's because you don't want it to be too gloopy, and then patching it up. And so it's kind of realizing like emotional discernment's happening here. So now with this energy of this being a grand trine aspecting Venus and Lilith, it's like there's a ton of supportive energy that is coming through with this reflection of sexual repression, of your desires, of and again, it depends on where Scorpio is in your natal chart, where this is really aspecting for you, but it's really bringing in, and I'm feeling the call to like dive deeper into like some of the stuff I write in my newsletter for my people who are subscribed like at the paid tier, of like really diving deeper. So who knows, keep your eye out if I end up doing that. We'll see. I have so many freaking ideas, guys. So many ideas, so many things to create. Okay, anyways, there's this supportive container that's happening with Venus and Lilith here, and it's like it's safe to explore this, whether that's safety within yourself to explore it, safety within the connections that are in your life to like explore shame and fear, especially around our deeper merging. And that can be sex, that can be money, that can be debt, that can be our deep emotions. It's kind of those hidden parts of us. Like, it's okay. It's like learning it's okay to share these things. So that is happening. Phew. Okay. So on Thursday, guys, I'm so excited. So keep an eye on Saturn here as we watch Saturn. We jump ahead and we're going to shift this from days to hours. Watch Saturn over here. Saturn's going to move forward, and stations direct. So Saturn is stationing direct pretty late at night for me. I'm on the West Coast, so Pacific Standard Time. So Saturn stations direct at 7:51 p.m. on the 27th. Okay, so as you can see on the platform that I use, Saturn, any planets that are direct are this white color, any planets retrograde are red. So Saturn stations direct. Thank God. This is the last time Saturn is in Pisces for the next 30 years. So we've had this sort of deeper excavation with Saturn the last couple months. And so with Saturn going direct, it's really giving us the forward momentum to actually start putting all of those things that we've been reflecting on with our emotional boundaries, our spiritual discipline, our deeper, because here's the thing. I fucking love Saturn in Pisces because it's really helping dissolve delusion. Pisces energy can be very, very illusionary. It can really fall into the fantasy energy. Hi, I have a lot of Pisces placements, so I'm speaking from personal experience. And Saturn in Pisces is really saying like, hey, you can't spiritually bypass stuff. It's like time to like take radical responsibility for the Piscean house within your natal chart, whatever area of life that is for you. It's really pulling in this deeper like, hey, here's some spiritual discipline. Here's how you tangibly take action upon insights that come in. And so with Saturn moving direct, it's like taking forward action. It's actually now all those things that you've been reflecting on the past couple months of like, yeah, where have I been, neglecting these emotional traits of mine or these emotional avenues of mine? Where have I been bypassing some of my experiences because of emotions being overly like overwhelming? And Saturn going direct is like, okay, you saw those things. Now it's time to take action. It's time to start actually taking basically hammer and nail and like building the foundation and like finalizing this spiritual discipline. And this is the last time we're getting the opportunity for the next 30 years to really build some fortitude within your spiritual practice. Not saying that it's never going to happen again, but it really is like, what does your spiritual practice look like? A lot of people have the last like 2.5 years have been really like awakening. I've noticed a lot. So like, what is your day-to-day routine with your spiritual discipline? Do you have like a morning routine? Do you have thank you, Shakira. Do you have daily meditation, going on walks? It looks different for everybody, right? And depending on which house it's in for you guys, it's got its own sort of implication. So there's a lot of finalization here. Now for my Saturn and Pisces natives, this is like the last little moment before your full Saturn return is over, right? This sort of finalizing of it. Now, if you have Saturn in the later degrees, it's kind of like later degrees of Pisces. It's like you guys are still in it. But it's going to be ending soon. By 2026, you're going to be in the clear. Thank goodness. I feel for you guys. Hi, Elle. Thank you guys again for liking the live and sharing and just being here with me. Yeah, right. I know. I'm thinking of a couple of Saturn and Pisces natives. Bless your hearts. I feel for you guys. Saturn returns are deep processes that are happening for you guys. So that is happening again on the 27th with that forward movement. Is just really actually like getting things into gear. I had a kid for, yeah, it's just a shift, right? It's a massive shift. Having kids, moving, depending on where Saturn is in your chart, if it's retrograde or if it's direct in your chart, you know, it just depends. There's so many layers to it. You know, you entered motherhood, which is a whole different archetype, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and jump to, so nothing's happening on the 28th directly, but then if we jump ahead to the 29th, pretty, oh, I'm on hours. I was like, what is happening here? Let me change this to like and let's go ahead. I was like, what is happening? Let's go ahead and jump ahead days. Okay, nothing's happening on the 28th, but then when we get to the 29th, Mercury stations direct. No, Saturn's just direct. Good question. So Saturn's going direct, which means it's not retrograde anymore. It's going to be in Pisces. Let's look. February 13th, 2026 is when Saturn will enter Aries and will be there until 2028. So great question. Yeah. The god of war, Aries as in the first sign of the zodiac. So we're starting a brand new cycle, guys. So fun little reflection for those of you who are popping in. This summer, by the way, we got a glimpse of what the next kind of 8 years look like. So, because we had a bunch of outer planets in new signs, it was a big thing. It's a big thing. I'm going to be writing a whole 2026 breakdown. For those of you guys who are subscribed to my newsletter, I'm going to have a whole, we're going deep for 2026, because in 2026, Neptune, Saturn, Uranus, and Pluto is now officially in Aquarius. All of those are moving into new signs, and they're moving into air and fire. So this summer was a glimpse. So whatever happened this summer, whatever energy was present this summer, be prepared. That's what your next 8 years is going to look like. Yeah. So that was a little glimpse. And now we're in this deep reflective energy because Neptune's back in Pisces, Uranus is back in Taurus, Saturn's back in Pisces, and they're all going to move signs. But on the 29th, Mercury stations direct. Woo! And Mercury's at 20 degrees of Scorpio and is going to march forward and be in its post shadow period until December 16th. I have a whole breakdown about that in my Mercury Retrograde Masterclass, and that's linked in my bio if you're interested. But Mercury stations direct. That means a sort of internal excavation that we've been going through of our mind and our mental processes within the Scorpio area within our natal chart is now like coming to the surface, meaning there's a lot more freedom to talk about these things, to have conversations, and just think about, you know, Mercury is going to come into this grand water trine with Jupiter and Saturn again later. And so we're going to have this like supportive expression, more freedom around talking, a little bit easier time like communicating these deeper needs, these deeper desires that we've been contemplating for the last couple weeks is coming to the forefront. Freedom to say what you want to say. Now, when this is happening also, I'm going to jump ahead, not a day, but jump back. We're going to go to hours. Let's go ahead and go to 8 p.m. So in the evening on the 29th, God, I can talk. Venus is at 29 degrees and Uranus is at 29 degrees. We have an opposition happening. An opposition from Uranus to Venus. And so Uranus is back in Taurus, and I've talked briefly about Uranus being back in Taurus, but we're in this deep, oh guys, this is going to be very interesting. Now that I'm like sitting with the energy. So Uranus moving back into Taurus is having us reevaluate our values, reevaluate money, reevaluate our tangible physical needs. So that's talking about like our five senses: sight, taste, touch, sound, smell. Like that's that Taurus energy that has to do with our tangible things. The first thing that we own in this life is our body. That's why Taurus represents the body. It goes from Aries, which is our identity, this egoic expression, into Taurus, the body. So we're really like reevaluating, like, okay, where are my needs? Where are my values? And what is my relationship to my worth, right? And so this opposition to Venus, and what's interesting is Taurus rules Venus. So there's this weird, interesting like energy happening because Venus in Scorpio is not very comfortable. I'm going to be honest. It's like taking a pretty princess and putting her in the underworld, and she's not Persephone. This is like taking Aphrodite and saying, hey, go hang out with Hades for a while. She's like, I don't want to be here. I'm not about it. I'm not about it. So, this opposition is really uncomfortable. Oppositions are 180 degrees. It's where two parts of our selves are facing off. And again, when I'm reading transits, these are things that we're going through collectively. This may affect you directly, depending if you have something at 29 degrees of a fixed sign. So that's Gemini, or not Gemini. What the hell? That's Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Leo. That'll probably be a little bit more significant for you. So there's this face-off happening. And Uranus is like, hey, girl, are you like, you've been prancing around in the underworld, and have you really taken it seriously? Have you taken this excavation, this deep dive that you've gone through? Or are you just like ready to crawl out of the underworld and like be in Sagittarius and running free? And so it's kind of like being faced where it's like, oh, did you actually like look at these things? Did you actually explore this deeper dive that you went on? And it's, you know, Venus is in the last degrees of Scorpio. So she's like almost, the way I see it is almost like trying to just master the energy to just like get out of it. And Uranus and Taurus is like, hey, but like, can you actually sit with the final degrees of the uncomfortability of being deep within presence, within your needs, your desires, your wants? Because Uranus is really just illuminating, is taking a moment to like really illuminate this energy. It's a flash of lightning, a flash of insight. So you may get like deeper illuminations of like, oh, like I've completely abandoned my desires. I've completely taken other people's perspectives of me way like to heart, is kind of the energy that I'm feeling. So there's this face off where Uranus and Taurus just wants to kind of like shake things up, where you may have it might be more comfortable for you to be in the energy of that Uranus retrograde in Taurus of like, you know, things are rocky, things are uncomfortable, but it's like, can you sit in that? And that's that Venus in Scorpio last degrees of like, can you sit with the depths that are present while your foundation's being shaken? So both are happening, and they're both not really happy about each other being present, but they're both happening. So it's like, can you find that middle ground, that sort of like moment of peace of like knowing that like this is temporary. This is temporary. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a peek out. Yeah. So then on the 30th, again, Venus is, doing a lot of transits this week. So Venus is going to, I mean, she's already in Sagittarius, but right before she jumps into Sagittarius at those final degrees of Scorpio, she's making a trine to Neptune, which is really helping her with this sort of like, I don't know, actually. Trines are really, really supportive energies, but it's almost like a form of escapism is the way I'm perceiving it, where it's like Neptune's almost throwing Venus a line to say like, hey, what if you just escaped your feelings with your fantasies? What if you just had a little drink? What if you escaped the feelings? I could do that for you. Maybe you just take a nap. Maybe you just don't deal with it. Maybe you just watch a bunch of shows. Maybe you just, and that's okay, because some of us aren't like me where I'm like, oh, let me dive deep into this thing. Not all of us are programmed that way. And that's okay. That's okay, because it takes time. I'm not saying, I'm going to say, like, I'm not a professional, like, mental health person. I am not a therapist. Like, you use your discernment. Everything that I say is from the guys that, like, you know yourself deeply, right? Sounds like every football Saturday in the South. That's hilarious. So additionally, like, this, it's kind of like a lifeline a little bit, but it's like, can you still sit in this uncomfortability and know that there are ways and avenues for you to, like, lighten the load a little bit, where it doesn't have to be so intense, that you can, you know, some positive ways to utilize this trine instead of, like, fully escaping. And when I say escaping, I'm meaning, like, doom scrolling, overindulgence in any substances, or, you know, breaching your boundaries, right? These sort of things that maybe might be unhealthy coping mechanisms. Some healthy coping mechanisms you could utilize with this sort of tension is, like, create an art piece that reflects how you're feeling. Listen to music, dance, talk to a friend, talk to a therapist. Yeah, because, you know, sometimes these trines are great, but sometimes it can kind of be like, well, I'm being held by the universe so closely right now, I'm just going to run away from this, instead of knowing that you're being so held that you can be with it, right? So then, you know, Venus jumps into Sagittarius. Whoa. I'm so sorry, guys. That was crazy. I just blinded you all. I didn't know what that button did. I was trying to click the trash can. That's basically Uranus right now. Uranus is doing that flash of lightning and is like, look at it all. Look at all your little stories and your shame around your desire for intimacy and your desire for abundance, your desires, all your desires. And then it's like, oh, flashbang. I'm so sorry. Literal flashbang. And then it's like, oh, what do I do with this? How do I sit with this? You know, I'm actually, like, feeling I just got, like, a table that I can set up in my space so I can do my arts and crafts, which I'm, like, really excited to, like, just, I really want to just do some art. And then, yeah, Venus enters Sagittarius around 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so Venus entering Sag, she's like, let's fucking go. We're out of the clear, like, we're clear out of the underworld, running. And so Venus entering Sagittarius, there's a lot more lightness, a lot more freedom, this sort of energy of, like, it's very similar to that feeling that we're having with the sun in Sagittarius, where it's like we've been kind of really excavating deep in the Scorpio underworld, kind of looking at our underbelly and, like, those vulnerable parts of us. And now it's like, okay, cool. We did the deep dive. It's not as serious. The thing about Sagittarius, if you guys didn't read my Substack about it, is Sagittarius is, when we look at the constellation, when we look at the story of Sagittarius, Sagittarius is technically Chiron. And if you don't know the story about Chiron, watch Hercules. That's who his mentor is, by the way. He's a what the hell? Centaur, half man, half horse. And the thing is, he gets wounded, and the wound is very important to the story of Sagittarius, because though Sagittarius is a scholar and so deeply mystified by learning and obtaining knowledge and exploring, the wound brings a level of humanness to humanitarianism. Interesting. Brings a level of humility to Sagittarius, where it's not all about escaping, you know, that scorpionic death area. It's all about, like, knowing the reality of life, that there is death, that there is this depth, but also knowing there is life too, and that you can live with your pain, that you can transmute it. And yes, it's not going to go away, but it doesn't have to consume you. that's that big picture of Sagittarius, is like still having a lightness and a deep breath with the energy. And so Venus moving into Sagittarius is like, that was intense. Wow. Amazing. Now I can kind of have a sort of lightness to this depth of transmutation that our love, our feminine expression went through, and now can kind of like know that that happened and know that there is a richness to her expression now, and not abandoning and just escaping that you went through that, is like how to integrate it. I'm thinking of like gold and alchemy is like this deeper energy of like moving through it and transmuting it. And it's like, wow, now you can, it's that energy of, I'm not sure if any of you guys have had that moment where you've seen somebody in public and they just have that aura to them where it's like, wow, I know that they went through a lot, but they're carrying themselves in a way that just is so beautiful, but you know there's a depth there. And that's kind of Venus and Sagittarius, where it's like, I heard like the Girl on Fire song where it's like, this girl is on fire. And it's like, it takes a lot of power to be able to walk on fire and to have the bravery to like go through the underworld and then emerge again in Sagittarius, and to not be afraid, to be all of you. So, damn, what a week. What a week that we are present with, y'all. Yeah, and then we have a full moon in Gemini next week. I'm going to be filming a video on that. That will be on my YouTube channel. So, we're going to go ahead and jump back here. And for TikTok, jumping back here. Whew. Wow, guys. Wow. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Full moon in your moon sign. So again, just a brief recap of what's going on this week. On the 24th, Mars is going to be squaring the nodes. Then Mercury conjuncts Venus on that Monday. On Wednesday, the 26th, Venus trine Saturn and also Jupiter, creating that grand water trine, and is also conjunct to Lilith at that time. On the 27th, Saturn stations direct. And then on the 29th, we have Mercury stationing direct. Then we have Venus opposing Uranus, then entering Sagittarius the next day on the 30th. And also, before she enters Sag, she does make that trine to Neptune. So, whew. A lot of energy, right? Lots going down.